Thank you. Mr. President, in a moment, I'm going to ask unanimous consent for the passage of Senate Joint Resolution 473. And that's a resolution commemorating the 7th anniversary of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi and calling for accountability for his murder. And this resolution is to honor the life and the absolutely gruesome death of the journalist, Washington Post journalist, and Virginia resident Jamal Khashoggi. For those who are not aware of Jamal Khashoggi's story, he dedicated his life to uncovering the truth. His work shed light on the repressive nature of the Saudi Arabian government, and it exposed him to great personal danger. He fled Saudi Arabia in 2017, and his family found a home in Northern Virginia. The Khashoggi story is now, unfortunately, too well known. On October 2nd, 2018, Mr. Khashoggi was brutally murdered by the Saudi government agents at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey, murdered within a consulate, a place that is supposed to be a safe haven. And his body, by all accounts of U.S. and other intelligence, was dismembered by those Saudi agents within the consulate. Mr. Khashoggi was not killed because he committed a crime. He was killed for speaking the truth as a journalist and shining a spotlight on the repressive nature of the Saudi Arabian government. He was killed for standing up for the rights of his fellow Saudi Arabians. Mr. Khashoggi's death is not a mystery. This is not a cold case waiting to be solved. We know exactly who was responsible for this killing. The U.S. government's Office of the Director of National Intelligence, as well as other U.S. intelligence agencies, determined that Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS as he's often referred to, approved an official governmental operation in Istanbul to capture or kill Jamal Khashoggi. And as a result of that operation approved by MBS, Mr. Khashoggi was ambushed as he went to the consulate to get some paperwork regarding his marriage. He was strangled, killed, and his body was dismembered. And then evidence of that crime was attempted to be destroyed. 7 years later, there has been no accountability for the person most responsible for the horrifying murder. No real justice for Jamal Khashoggi, no justice for his family, no justice for the many others who have raised their voices in Saudi Arabia and who, for something simple as tweeting, are being threatened with execution. Instead, the leader who approved the operation to kill Jamal Khashoggi, the man who was proud to oppress his own people, MBS, is being celebrated today at our White House. MBS was welcomed with a black tie dinner. He's being offered F-35 fighter jets, one of the crown jewels of our security apparatus, over the open objections of our ally Israel and potentially in violation of the law. He's being offered extremely high-tech computer chips and other valuable U.S. technology. He's being offered a major mutual defense agreement. It is frankly outrageous to me that the President of the United States would assert that American service members should put their lives on the line to defend the oppressive regime in Saudi Arabia. Yesterday, when President Trump was asked by a reporter from ABC about Jamal Khashoggi, he said, quote, "A lot of people didn't like Jamal." He said about the killing, quote, "Things happen," close quote. Things like a gruesome strangling in an embassy and the dismembering of a body of a journalist for the Washington Post with a bone saw. Things happen. And then our president threatened ABC's broadcast license because the reporter had the audacity to ask him a question he didn't like. I've said it many times, and I'm going to say it again. Standing with this regime with no accountability for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi is not America first. It's not consistent with our values as a world-leading democracy. I was very vocal in my frustration about this matter, not only during President Trump's first term, but also during President Biden's term. When President Biden visited Saudi Arabia in 2022 and fist bumped with MBS, I was vocal in my dissatisfaction. I was vocal in my disappointment over this effort when Biden administration's State Department sided with MBS in his efforts to gain sovereign immunity in the United States to avoid accountability for this murder. I was frustrated when Biden administration Middle East policy officials left the White House in January of 2025 and in short order started signing lucrative contracts with the Saudi government. And I continue to be appalled as the families of senior Trump administration officials, Kushner family, Witkoff family, and President Donald J. Trump's own children signed major deals with the Saudi regime in cryptocurrency or real estate development. Just a few days ago, on November 15th, the New York Times reported that the Trump organization was in talks to bring Trump-branded property to one of Saudi Arabia's largest government-owned real estate development. And I have huge questions, as I think many Americans do, about whether the intertwining of cryptocurrency or real estate deals is behind the president's casual reference to things happen to whitewash and excuse the assassination and dismembering of a Washington Post journalist who lived in my state. When the Saudi-backed LIV Golf Tour made overtures about maybe acquiring the PGA in 2023, there was bipartisan outrage about that. But I've heard little outrage from any of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle regarding MBS's visit. Is the PGA more important or worth raising concerns about than the transfer of F-35 jets to Saudi Arabia? Shouldn't we ask, what is the Trump administration's priority? Is it democracy? Is it human rights? Is it national security? Or is it real estate or cryptocurrency deals that benefit family members of those in the administration? Why is the administration willing to move so far to accommodate this regime, this individual that our own intelligence agencies have said is responsible for the murder of a Washington Post journalist who lives in my Commonwealth? What is the United States getting from offering MBS all of this? Or is the United States getting anything? Is it instead individuals who are getting their pockets filled at the expense of our democratic human rights values? Standing with Saudi Arabia against the interests of the American people, against our national security, against our human rights proclamations, against the security of our ally Israel, and against the freedom of the press right here at home is unconscionable. And so now, Mr. President, I would like to ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Foreign Relations be discharged from further consideration, and the Senate now proceed to Senate Resolution 473. Further, that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from Idaho.
Mr. President, reserving the right to object, I would like to make a few observations about this resolution. First of all, this couldn't come at a more inappropriate time. I think my good friend knows that there is a very large delegation from Saudi Arabia visiting right now to Washington, D.C. They are a long-term ally of the United States, going back almost 100 years. We've had a long relationship with them. Certainly, nothing I'm saying here is to denigrate the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. That happened. There's absolutely no question about it. But nothing that this resolution will do nothing to achieve accountability for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi more than has already accrued. When Jamal Khashoggi was killed in 2019, President Trump and the administration conducted a thorough investigation into his death. It was determined that 17 Saudi nationals were responsible for Mr. Khashoggi's death, and they were subsequently sanctioned. In addition, the Saudis themselves took action. President Trump also understands, and we should all understand, that the U.S. needs stable and invested security partners in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia has played an increasingly important role over the last 100 years, and an even more important role in recent years regarding diplomacy, economic growth, and especially regional security in the Middle East. Justice and accountability for the past are important, but with a thorough investigation complete and the responsible individuals held accountable, we can look to a better and brighter future for the U.S.-Saudi relationship. With all of this in mind, and the fact that at this time and place, this resolution is not in the best interest of the United States, I object.
The objection is heard.